networking stuff, especially when you're trying to have your own business.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So the poll
I thought I was on mute. I'm so sorry.
So the poll that I put up, for those that just joined us, go ahead and you can answer that as well. On a scale of 1 to 5, so we have 38% extremely confident, 25% somewhat confident, 25% somewhat nervous, and 13% extremely nervous. So we have a nice mixture of people kind of seeing where they are in public speaking. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into the first question. Is it normal to be nervous before you get in front of people? How can you prepare yourself and overcome any fear that you may have to speak in front of people, regardless of the size of the crowd?
So, but before I actually answer that, Verlaine, let me ask a quick question. For everybody that's on here, some people are, I can't see cameras, but for the people that do have their cameras on, how many of you are nervous before a presentation or before a speech or something of that nature? How many of you get nervous? Just show of hands. You can just throw your hand up there. It's okay.
I typically, I'm good up until like right before. Before.
Okay. So it seems that we all kind of have the same attribute there. Right before any presentation, like I'm extremely nervous, and I typically got to be by myself right before I like go on stage or present in front of a camera, anything. I'm extremely nervous, but the second that the first word is spoken, all that goes away. All that completely goes away. So it's okay to be nervous. Everybody gets nervous right before something new happens, something different happens. So that's expected, but what do you do for that nervousness? Me, I like to, right before I go on stage, I'm listening to some music. I gotta get that energy up, because again, when you conducting a speech or anything of that nature, it's a transfer of energy. Mm-hmm. So you have a crowd, you have an audience, even if you're doing a one-on-one, doesn't really matter. It's a transfer of energy. So I like to get my energy up to a level to where you can almost feel that as I'm speaking. That's one of the things that I look to do right before I go, talk to an audience. The next thing is I like to listen to other speakers, because I'm able to pull tips and tricks from them. Certain things that they do, certain things that they say, how they say it, how they implement laughter or, jokes or quotes or anything like that. So I listen to other speakers and try to get tips and tricks from them. That normally helps me overcome that nervousness. Also, and this may be, my own personal thing, but I gotta pray. I pray before I go on stage, and I just kind of ask God to kind of remove that nervousness from me and give me that strength and give me that inspiration to go out and change somebody's lives. So those are typically some of the things that I implement, like right before I go into a speech. Now, everybody has a different routine. I know some people that they typically just hold conversations with other people in the building. They do things like they have a mantra where they do the affirmations, telling themselves, man, I'm about to go out here and kill it. I'm about to do this. So it's different things that you can actually do to overcome that nervousness. It just has to be something that really benefits you, something that fits into your personality. Because again, you're sharing yourself with whoever you're talking to. Yeah. So to make you feel more comfortable and less nervous, you got to do something that, that pertains to you.
So that's a good point. So just for, audience wise, this is dialogue too. So feel free, like I said, drop any questions, comments in the chat and we can bring you up to, discuss it as well. But start thinking about what those things are. So as he's giving suggestions and tips, start thinking about and, write it down so you can actually implement it when we close out today. How about in terms of, I know we were talking about the preparation piece and like getting rid of nerves, but how about making sure you show up like wherever you're going on time, so you're not kind of pressed or rushed? Or do you think that that's a factor as well?
That's very effective. I would say that arrive at least 20 to 25 minutes early. And the reason I say that is because when you're doing a speech or a presentation, it's not so much about what you say, it's more about how you connect with that audience. So a great way to connect, and a little tip, arrive at least 20 minutes early and try to get out and network and socialize with the people who are going to be in the audience. Sometimes they may know that you're going to be the speaker, sometimes they may not know, but you get out there and you connect with them, and then you ask questions, because you can get some information that pertains to your message, and you can tie that in to connect better with them. You can find out what issues they may be having, what concerns they may have, what problems they may be facing, and you can kind of tailor your message to a solution that will connect and resonate with them.
And so when we're talking about the delivery piece and connecting, is there anything else in terms of maybe like the structure of your speech that will allow you to connect with your audience as well?
When developing a speech, you want to have one core message, because again, I think sometimes, and I did this early on when I started speaking, I tried to speak to everybody. That's almost a recipe for disaster, because again, if you're in a room of 100 people and you're speaking to them, you're not going to be able to touch everybody. Your message isn't going to relate to everybody. So you got to make sure that you have a core message and you're speaking to a specific point. Now, when speaking to that specific point, you want to tie things into that core message. So you want to have 3 main points. So if we're talking about public speaking, that's the broad aspect of things. You want to tie main points into that. What will be my opening? What will be in the body of my speech? What will be the closing? So those are 3 main points that you can touch on, and then you want to expand on those points. So a critical thing that I learned early on, when you write out your speech, because we have some people that actually write their speeches out, and then you have some people that just kind of go off of memory based on what they practice. So when you're writing out that speech, you want to tie it into the way that you actually communicate with people. You don't want to write it out word for word, because you're fumble trying to remember each and every word as you're trying to present. And then you're also looking in the audience and you're trying to minimize the distractions and things that are going on. And that's an easy way to forget what you want to say. So just have a core message and then tie 3 to 5 main points into that core message. And that'll help you when structuring your speech.
I want to take a quick break because I feel like you dropped a lot of good tips. Does anyone have questions on how to specifically do that? You can unmute yourselves. I did take that feature off. So if you want to unmute, you can go ahead and unmute if you have a specific question for that. Okay. If not, we're going to keep on going. Okay. So you mentioned like staying on track and making sure that as we're not memorizing the words, but what are some other tips to make sure that when we're up there and we're in the middle of speech or we do fumble, how do we stay focused or get back on track?
So one of the things that I think it takes some time to really understand, the audience is there, but they're there to support you. Like the audience is really in favor of whatever your message is. They're there to really to listen and get something from it. So they don't know when you mess up. They don't know that you're nervous. Now, you can be on stage and really impact somebody by just being yourself. So one thing that I will say is, when you're on that stage and you're looking out into that audience, you'll sometimes see people not really paying attention. They may be looking in their phone. They may be talking to their neighbor, or they're doing something and you feel as, they're uninterested.
Mhm.
Again, there's ways to bring them back into the conversation, because that's pretty much what we're doing. As a speaker, you're having a conversation. It's an open conversation that you're having with your audience. So there's ways to bring them back into the conversation and really keep yourself in alignment with what it is that you're trying to convey to them.
What are some tips? Because that's a great point, to bring them back into the conversation. How would you suggest actually doing that?
So as we're kind of listening to certain things, there's a tip that I learned, and it's called vocal variety, right? So when I'm excited, you see how my voice goes up? I get a little bit louder. And as I get louder, you'll turn in and oh man, what is he talking about? You see what I'm saying? And that's an easy way for me to transition and say something catchy that'll get your attention to bring you back into the story, right? Also, if it's something that is more serious, something that I really want you to hone into, then I kind of bring my voice down a little bit. I kind of really talk to you like I'm personally talking to you, like a one-on-one. You see how I change my vocal variety.
And it keeps kind of like lean into like, wait, what you say? What you talking
about? Exactly. You see that? You see? So that brings people back in. And once you get them back in, then you go right back into your message. But again, your core message, your main points, and then you want to tie stories into that, because people always relate to stories. So if you got a good story, as we all do, each one of us has a special story, and that story can resonate with your audience. And again, with that vocal variety, bringing it up and down, hitting your main points, now you're keeping them attentive. And once, as they're attentive, now they're listening.
So one thing that just came to mind is I used to help people and coach people on interviewing. And so we would say, have, certain stories in your memory bank. So when you go into the interview, you're kind of tweaking those maybe 5 stories to answer the questions when you're on the job interview. And so that's the first thing that came to mind when you're talking about stories. So are there specific stories that we should kind of have in our memory bank? Like, should we have like a creative or fun story, or that can tie in based off of who our audience is? Do you have an example of maybe the type of stories we should have?
So that's a great question, Verlaine. That's a great question.
It was loaded. My apologies.
So this is something that I learned also. It's a trick that I kind of picked up that helps you to develop your stories and also remember them, because again, they're your stories. So you can kind of tweak them and mold them any way you want to fit the benefit of whoever your audience is. It's called your unique life experience. So ULE, unique life experience. So you take at least 5 unique life experiences that you have faced or transitioned through in your life. And I'll just kind of give you some of mine. I speak on not having a father around. So fatherhood is big. People connect with that, not having a father around. Second story I talk about is me facing or dealing with multiple sclerosis, me having MS, another relatable story. Another story I talk about is just growing up in with a single mom and her not being around much. So kind of talk about that story. Me being a father at an early age, so just transitions in my life that I have dealt with that can pertain to somebody else, and somebody else can relate to my story. And then I just mold that. But using your unique life experiences, you can always tie back into a story, just depending on whatever your core message is. Okay, boom, I can use this story for that. Boom, I can tie this story into that, and then talk about main points based on that story.
And that kind of transitions into like your branding as well. Having stories that are relevant to whatever brand maybe you're trying to portray, so that you're preparing
Absolutely.
those things ahead of time. That's a great tip. Shondella, I see you unmuted yourself. Go ahead. You have a question or comment?
I have a comment. This is just crazy how this is all working out for me. Things have just been manifesting like the last 2 weeks. Crazy. I have this. It's called High Impact Storytelling. It's a worksheet, I guess, that prompts you to brainstorm, all the inspiring stories that you have to offer, so that this in particular is for hosting a vision board party. And because I'm doing that with a group of ladies next week. And so I wanted us to have good discussions while we're doing it. And so I found this on the internet. And again, it's a worksheet that to go through. It has 9 writing prompts to help jog your memory on, like he was saying, your life lessons, your life experiences. And so some of the questions are, what memory from your childhood do you remember the most? What's the biggest lesson you learned as a young adult? What's the biggest mistake you've ever made? And so it's just crazy to hear him saying this. And I have this worksheet that I am going to be working on this week.
There you go.
to do that. So yeah.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah, please drop that. That's a great.
I will. I sure will.
It looks like we do have another question too. Can your main point be your ULE?
Can your main, like your core message be your ULE?
Darlene, is that what you're specifically asking? You can feel free to unmute.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I heard him say that you can also use part of your ULE. Can that be one of the 3 to 5 main points that you use?
Your
when you're
ULE
giving a
can
speech?
actually be, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Your ULE can be your core message. And then from that, you can extract 3 to 5 main points on that. So just for instance, if I'm talking about me dealing with multiple sclerosis, I can extract 3 main points from that. How I felt in the doctor's office when, I was first diagnosed, how my family responded to it, what I went through as a result, some things that was challenging in my life that I had to overcome, some adversities, so you can extract the main points from your core, but your core message can be your ULE. Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. No problem.
So did you have anything else you wanted to add? Because I feel like I may have jumped in there.
No. That was it.
Okay, we're gonna keep moving then. So with us being in a pandemic and things are, transitioning. Hello, we're on Zoom right now. What tips can you provide to convey a confident self specifically on screen?
To portray a confident self on screen, I think you actually just have to get started. You got to get going and put yourself out there, because again, nobody really knows what you do until you show them what you do. So getting past the nervousness and getting past, not feeling confident enough or comfortable enough, the biggest thing that you can do is practice. Practice. There's never gonna be a time where you're just a phenomenal speaker and you don't have to practice anymore. Even some of the best still practice, and even if you have to start by just shooting videos, just in your home, before you actually do a Zoom with, 20, 30 people, just do a video in your home and allow people that's close to you to view those and give you good feedback on it. Even if you present in front of, maybe your kids or some of your family members or some people in your church or anything like that, allow yourself to get going, get some momentum going, because that's the only way that'll build that confidence up for you to feel comfortable enough to do it in front of strangers. You got to start somewhere. So again, just shooting videos and putting it out there for people to give you some good feedback on. So you know your points where you can improve at. And also watching those videos yourself. You there's a lot of times where before I go out and do a presentation, I'll record the whole thing and then go back and watch it myself. So I can pick out certain areas where my mannerisms, facial expressions I could have improved on, or my body language, or I didn't feel like I was giving off enough energy, or, just different things that I can point out first. And then I'll have another set of eyes come and take a look at it. So I can really structure that speech and mold it and put it to the best point of perfection that I can.
I think that transitions over to even like presenting yourself on social media. Obviously, there's a huge shift in like doing lives and engaging with people on there outside of just Zoom. So those are great tips to really prepare and get comfortable doing that as well. We're gonna transition to communicating socially now. And so the first question for that is the small talk. People hate small talk, but they hate it. Most people do not like it. But why or why not do you feel like that is important? And how do you navigate small talk?
So let me ask you this question before I actually go into that. What is it about small talk that you don't approve of, or you don't like, or what presents a issue when it comes to small talk? If anybody would like to chime in on that.
I like to talk, so that's not my problem.
Right.
I can talk to
as do I. Like I love, but it's a way to utilize small talk into something bigger. But I just want to kind of know, like, does anybody have issues with small talk, or is it something that you just typically do?
I could say, I'll jump in here. I could say, this is BJ. I personally don't care for small talk. To me, it feels like it's scripted. Hey, what do you do for a living? Oh, I work at this. Oh, I work at this. Oh, okay. All right. How long you been there? I've been there. Okay, fine. What are your goals at the job? Yeah, I mean, and that's what you say to 3 or 4 people, and after that, we're not talking about anything else anymore. Well, how's the weather? How are the Redskins? And to me, it's disingenuous small talk. So if I want to talk about something, I have to be passionate and have concerns or care about it. The small talk, miss me with it.
I can definitely understand that, BJ. I appreciate you sharing that. And he said something. Oh yeah, Shondella, go ahead.
I have just finished this book, and I'm actually reading it again for the second time. It's called Ask Powerful Questions, Create Conversations That Matter. Are you familiar with this, Andre?
Very much so.
Okay, I'll let you talk. That's all. I'll put it in the chat too.
Yes, drop them resources, because you already brought us 2 more additional resources today.
Absolutely. Definitely appreciate that. Just to kind of touch on that, small talk to me, again, like Verlaine said, I love to talk, but you can get around somebody and they get to rambling and they just going on and on and on, like BJ said, and it just becomes like, okay, well, what are we really talking about here? So small talk has to be intentional, and for it to be intentional, you have to control the conversation. In controlling the conversation, when you're implementing small talk, you actually want to, when I say control the conversation, you want to be I guess the aggressor, more say, asking open-ended questions that'll make you respond in a way that now I can come back with something more intentional. So if I'm like, well, hey, what's your favorite football team? And you're telling me about your team, and you're rambling. I want to tie that into something. I want to be able to tie that into a story. So when I'm asking you what your favorite team is, I can tie that into a story that, hey, you know what? Let me share something with you. My mom actually likes that team. And here's the reason why. And to tell you why my mom likes that team, but I'm also giving you something on the back end of that. Whereas, hey, so are you familiar with, you know, why this team is this, or are you familiar? Like I'm continuously asking open-ended questions to find a space, a medium to where I can start to interject certain things that can tie into some type of message. Because again, us just having small talk, where are we really going? Where are we really going with the conversation, right? Because we're both just, well, yeah, this, that, this, and we're not really going anywhere. So you got to be intentional with small talk.
I love that. And I think knowing, like you, being intentional, but knowing what your intentions are going into those conversations, like, do you genuinely want to learn more about that person? Or are you just talking to them to see, can they take my business card and give me some business? Like, what are your intentions with, you know, starting a conversation with that person? I think that, you know, that goes back to you inside as well. And to me, that helps kind of guide the conversation, because like you say, you continue to ask other questions that can sometimes tie into, like you said, being able to bring up another story, learn more about them. And then that's how you find out you have more things in common, which then also allows you to be more comfortable with them because you find common ground. So I love that example there. Anyone else wanted to share about if they're comfortable or not with small talk? Anyone else have anything they wanted to share about that? Okay, we're gonna keep going on then. So we talked about controlling the conversation, but how do you transition when someone has been hogging the conversation or they're just really dry? So like, you're kind of like feeling like, I don't know if this is going anywhere. What do you do in that situation?
So when somebody's hogging the conversation, and I think everybody has been in a situation where you got somebody just talking and they rambling, and you're like, man, I can't even get a word in. And, you know, there's different interjections that you can utilize. And for me, it's all about the active listening piece. So if somebody's going on and on and on, and they're just talking and rambling, I try to at least find 2 points to whatever they were talking about that I can interject on. And my go-to lines with that is, so what I heard you say was, that's going back to let them know that I was listening to whatever they were talking about. I took a point away from that, you know, I took something away from it. So what I heard you say was, well, here's what I found that helped me. That's the second part of it. Because now I want to control the conversation again. I let you talk, active listening. So what I heard you say was, to reiterate what you were talking about, well, here's what I found that helped me. And then you go into, you know, your message or your story or whatever it is that you can utilize to, again, control that conversation. As far as, I know that was a 2-part question. You said when somebody's hogging the conversation, and then when somebody's kind of dry, right?
Yeah.
So to me, communication is all about energy. It's all about energy. So if somebody's dry, then you're kind of like you don't really want to engage in conversation, because like there's no transfer of energy there.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They're dry. You can't really give anything back because you're not getting anything from the conversation. So when somebody's dry in conversation, you have to be able to, again, you want to transfer some energy to them. Now, I know a lot of times people are, you know, when we're dealing with COVID, you know, you're talking to somebody, you got a mask on, it's kind of weird. And you know what I'm saying? People don't want to be touched. And I find that certain techniques like that, like if I'm talking to somebody, I might put my hand on their shoulder or something, you know what I'm saying? Or I hit them on the arm and kind of laugh, and you know what I'm saying, just to get them comfortable. And then, you know, as you're smiling, you're nodding, you know, all those things are a transfer of energy, you know. So if they're dry, you know, you want to get them out of that, you know, and get them into a space of where they're okay. Now they're beginning to liven up a little bit. You know, you guys will laugh. You might throw in a joke or something, or something relatable to get them out of that dry space and really transfer that energy to have an open conversation where you're getting something from it.
And Ayana mentioned in the chat, nonverbal types of communication. Perfect. Yeah. Perfect.
Absolutely.
So what are some resources? Because this is clearly a skill set, right? This is something we're learning, like you have to practice, you have to prepare for it. What are some resources to continue growing this skill set? And then the second part of that question is, are there any associations or clubs or organizations that we can get involved with today to kind of help us with this?
Yeah. So I guess I kind of answered both of those at the same time. You know, of course, I mean, practice, but you have to get around. Like if speaking is something that you look forward to doing, or you want to do, you know, for your business or organization or anything like that, it's a skill set that continues to develop. You continuously have to develop that skill set, and just being around other speakers, utilizing different platforms to speak on, things like Toastmasters, excuse me, NSA, the National Speaking Association. There's a lot of groups out there on Facebook that deal with speakers, a lot of coaches, consultants that help speaking. I actually took John Maxwell course on speaking. That was a phenomenal course, costly, but it was phenomenal in the information that it gives. And then you're able to utilize some of the information that he puts out. So there's different realms, Rotary clubs, you know, whatever city you're in, you know, Rotary clubs, it's a bunch of different meetings everywhere, Toastmasters everywhere. So things of that nature where you're planning yourself around other speakers that's giving you developmental skills and things that you can utilize for your own benefit when you're doing a talk.
I love the fact that you said getting yourself kind of immersed and getting yourself around other speakers, because then you guys can definitely hold each other accountable. That's another group you can, you know, practice with, you can bounce ideas off with. I know my cousin, she is a public speaker. She did a TED Talk. And that was one of the things that she said, is that she just likes to bounce her ideas. She likes to practice stories because, like you mentioned, you have to have that Rolodex, right, of stories. But yeah, with it being your story, I think sometimes we may think everything is important. So kind of figuring out what things to keep, not to keep. And it is good to practice so that the story doesn't feel like long and drawn out. Because as she was sharing stuff, I'm like, you don't need to share that. You don't need to add that, take right. that out. So it is good to, you know, practice and bounce ideas off of each other, because our personal stories, you know, they're ours. We think everything is in that.
Yeah.
So that's
that's another another reason to record yourself, so you'll know. Because again, the biggest thing that you want to keep in mind when you go do a talk, you have a time limit. So you can't tell your whole story. You know, you got to take the important parts out of it and be able to convey that in a meaningful way to keep your audience interested. So again, a good way to do that is to record your talk before you actually go and speak. Go back and look at it and say, okay, boom, I can cut this out here, or I can minimize this here. If I only got 5 minutes, you know, you want to make sure that you're on time in your talks. You can finish a little early, but you never want to go over time where they be like, okay, hey, let's wrap it up. So you always want to make sure that your time is in your talk is in the allotted time for your speech. And something that I forgot to mention earlier, when you're constructing your speech and you're up there to minimize the nervousness, because you're thinking that, man, I don't want to mess up. A big key factor to utilize is the pause method.
Mm. What do you
You
mean?
see, I just paused.
Oh.
See? I paused and I allowed stuff to sink in. I allowed you to just take in what I just said. So utilize that at all costs, because again, that right there can stop you from the ums, ahs, because you're trying to think of what you want to say next. So pause for a second, eye contact with the audience, boom, and jump right back into, even if you forgot where you at, pause, boom, give you time to regroup, jump right back into your speech, continue as if it was part of everything. So they never know that you messed up. You just paused for a second. So it's like they call it a pregnant pause. Okay, now I'm back into it. So utilize that. That definitely a tip that that will help you.
I know you said the John Maxwell course, there was a fee, but some of the other associations that you mentioned, are there fees associated with those as well, like the Toastmasters, the NSA, Rotary Club?
So NSA, there is a fee for that as well, because it's like top tier. You get in that, you're around some dynamic, phenomenal speakers, and they give away a lot of information, and they're very structured and organized, and it's I'm telling you, if you want to take speaking to the next level, NSA is definitely something that you would want to get involved in. But
And
yes, NSA.
I'm sorry, is that National Speakers Association? Is that what that stands
Yes.
for? Okay.
Yep. There's National Speakers Association, and there's a National Speakers Bureau. So either one of those you can actually tap into. Toastmasters has a fee. It's a small fee. I think you pay like you sign up and then you pay like every 6 months or something like that. Okay. Because they give you some material, and it shows you how to structure speeches, and it also gives you some leadership skills and different things like that. But Toastmasters is phenomenal. I loved it. Everything else, like the Rotary clubs and stuff, it's free to go speak, but to join, I think there's a fee. Okay. Like if you want to join the club, it's a fee, but they always bring in different speakers all the time. So that's just something, you want to practice on your message, or get the word out about something. You can actually tap into those.
Okay, awesome. All right, as we're winding down, because we want to give time to open up Q&A to the audience as well. But if you had to pick your top 3 tips on conveying your best self and message to your audience, what would they be and why?
Top 3 tips. My first one would be always present with good energy. Again, as you're standing up there, it's a transfer of energy, and people want to be entertained. They want to be inspired. So always present with good energy, liven up the crowd, keep them at bay, as you're telling your story. Again, using that vocal variety, taking them on some highs and some lows, keep them on the edge of their seat. So you want to do that and present with good energy. Also, you want to be knowledgeable about whatever it is you're talking about. You want to be knowledgeable on your subject. If you're putting in some statistics in there, or anything formidable that they can leave with, you want to be knowledgeable about what you're talking about, and you want to grab their attention early, right off the bat. So normally when I start my talks, it's either with a thought-provoking question or some type of quote, something relatable that can really hone in quickly. So you always want to grab their attention early and be knowledgeable about your subject. And the last thing I would say is allow your audience to see your vulnerability. Because again, there's no such thing as a perfect speech, right? And when you're presenting, you got to ask yourself the question, what are they taking from what I'm saying? Because the speech isn't about you. It's about your audience. So what are they taking from what I'm up here talking about? What outcome are they going to get? So understand that you provide some type of solution to your audience. And in doing so, you want to make sure that you're helping them reach their goals, or you're helping them do something, think differently, or in some type of procrastination or overcome some type of adversity. You're helping them do something. So you want to make sure that you understand with your talk, what is my audience going to leave with?
Awesome. Thank you for those, Andre. We want to go ahead and transition now to open up the floor for questions from the audience. If you have a specific question for yourself, for the group, whatever it may be, we're going to go ahead and open up the floor now. You can just go ahead and unmute yourself. And welcome, Ramon. I know you joined us as well. No questions? Everyone's gonna walk out of here ready to go on stage. I'm so proud of y'all.
Not at all.
Actually, I have a question.
Not at all.
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yep,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Femi.
Yeah, actually, one question I do have is, how do you motivate change, like changing like a behavior in others through tactful communication, and how to obtain whether it's like a specific outcome or result? What's the best guidance or tips you can do with whether it's your interpersonal or professional relationships?
So let me repeat that question and make sure I understand. What's some tips to motivate? You said motivate the.
Basically, okay, so how do you motivate a change in behavior, whether it's on a personal or professional level, with whether it's like personally or professionally with individuals you work with? And how can you do that in, I guess, in a tactful manner?
I think he's frozen.
Is that, I'm sorry, can you hear me? Hello,
Yeah,
can
we
you hear
can
me?
hear you, but I'm.
Did I need to repeat the question? I thought it was, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but Andre froze. So
Oh,
we didn't
okay.
get the
Okay,
answer.
well, no worries. It was just, I was just trying to think how to, I guess, no worries if it froze. So that's all right.
I told Andre about that Wi-Fi. He tripping.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's a good question. It's a good
That's
question.
a really good question. So he'll be back. He'll be back. It happened to us earlier, so it went out, but he'll be back. So
Everyone's
worries.
probably on Zoom right now, blocking
Yeah.
up the lines.
I think that is a good point, even for discussion until he comes back. Does anyone have any suggestions for that? Because I know there are different people here that are in leadership roles, managers, and they have to lead teams and things like that. So does anyone have any suggestions before Andre gets back? Go ahead, Shandella.
I think it has a lot to do with the rapport and connection that you have with this person, or whomever you're talking about. You have to establish some sort of rapport, because that way people are more receptive to whatever it is you're trying to communicate to them, especially if you're trying to persuade them to act a different way, or take a different course of action. You really got to make sure that you build some rapport, because once you connect with people, I think they'll be able to take things that you say to them constructively, rather than in a critical way, criticizing them. So that's just my thought. But Andre's the expert here.
I think that was definitely great advice. I definitely agree with you, Shandella.
I got
Andre, go ahead, BJ. And then hold on really quickly. Andre, did you hear the question?
I asked him to repeat the question, and that's when stalled out. I don't know if that was mine or my bad, but
Andre,
I'm
but it's
back
okay.
now.
So really quickly, Femi, can you repeat the question? And then I'm gonna have BJ go really quickly, and then Andre, you can go. Okay.
So I think along with, I guess, with communication and, you know, interpersonal, whether professional or personal relationships, how can you motivate change in behavior and a personal or professional relationship in a tactful way? Like, what's the best like strategy or tips to do that and having an effective dialogue?
So Andre, I'm gonna let you.
Did that phrase again? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would, you said BJ was gonna go first, right? Or you want me to go?
Yeah. BJ, you have a suggestion for him?
I'll let Andre go first while we got him.
Okay. Okay, go ahead then, Andre.
So with that, to motivate change in behavior, I would think first you would have to find some common ground, you know, because again, how am I motivating a person that I'm not really connecting to? See, again, when you're talking about communicating, it's mere connection. So first we got to find some type of common ground. And in finding that common ground, now we open up a dialogue as to, again, asking them open-ended questions. Those questions mean everything. Because again, if you think about it, people love to talk about themselves. So if you're dealing with something, you're facing an issue, if I ask the right question, you're open, you're prone to open up about it. And as you're opening up about it, now I'm listening. So implementing that active listening, and I can depict and pick certain things out that, you know, you may be struggling with. And whatever those things are, now I can tie that into, you know, how I provide a solution for that. So if it's your business or something like that. So again, as Verlaine explained earlier, you know, I'm a youth development coach, and I think her name is Ayana.
Ayana.
I'm in social services as well. Yeah, in the city of Hampton, I work with at-risk teens, and a lot of what I do is that the active listening piece, asking the open-ended questions for them to open up, where I can start to establish the rapport with them and find out where I can implement, you know, a solution to impact that type of change in their behavior. You see what I'm saying? So you have to find some type of common ground, because again, people only, and this is, you may have heard this before, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. So if you utilize that concept, you're more prone to impact some type of change in behavior once you find that common ground. Does that help?
I thought that was very helpful. I think Femi had.
Yeah, I think that was great. I thought that was great. I thought that was just very, you know, apropos. So
awesome.
Appreciate it.
All right, we have time, I would say, for one more question. Is there a question on the floor? Okay, so I do want to say thank you to everyone that joined us tonight. Also, Andre, how can people get in contact with you if, you know, they have additional questions? Do you do any other additional services to help people with speaking that they can reach out to you about?
Absolutely. But let me shameless plug. I got it, since you put it out there, shameless plug. You can go pick up the book, Living Vital, From Adversity to Advantage. It's on all platforms. Just type Living Vital into Amazon. It'll pop right up. Check that out. I'm on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Speak to Educate.
Okay, I was just about to say, what's your social media?
Yep. Yeah, Speak to Educate. That's on, matter of fact, hold on one second. It's on all platforms. Speak to Educate. So you can find that Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Definitely reach out to me. Like I said, the book is on all platforms. Right now, due to the pandemic, you know, a lot of my speaking engagements and things of that nature have been kind of shortened, because a lot of my talks and a lot of the work I do is in the juvenile detention centers. So I go to a lot of the juvenile detention centers, and I implement a lot of workshops there for some of the first time offenders and things of that nature. So always looking to bridge the gap and connect with other speakers. And just through this avenue right here that Verlaine has put together, I'm always accessible. If you have any questions or concerns or need any help, you know, or advice that I can give you.
Awesome. If you
Well,
don't
thank you.
mind-
I want to say something, Verlaine.
Oh, go ahead, Antoine.
Real quick. I know you about to close out, and I didn't want to interrupt during the thing, but definitely one of the first points that you said, the unique life experience, ULE.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing
Yeah.
about that, and definitely someone in this group right now I haven't actually talked to for almost 20 years. My friend, my buddy from when I was in Charlotte, Darlene actually, I took her family in. She helped my brother graduate from college, from high school and everything. And definitely that's something I use in some of my speeches and talk about, is definitely Darlene is an awesome woman. She has so many the kids, and I'm a godparent.
Don't make me cry.
This is my girl. I love her. And it's just I love this woman right here. You know, we just have so many memories. And she helped me get through college and helped me get through my life and make sure my brother actually graduated while I was in the Navy. So
Nice.
yes, I'm about to cry too.
Oh man, that's beautiful. Hey, that's beautiful.
I love you, Antoine. Thank you. I'm so crying
Hey.
over here.
The power of connections. The power of
Yes.
connections.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Andre, I learned so much from you. I took plenty of notes. I am so happy we brought back dynamic dialogues and you are our first speaker for this year. I feel like we started off so strong. This was recorded, so I'll be able to share it. I feel like there were just so many gems that you really provided for us today. So thank you for taking the time and thank you for sharing all of that information with us. We do have several events also coming up with the Connect 757. We have our Melanin Reads, which we are focused on Sister Soldier's book this month. It's interesting, I will just say that. But all of our events are listed on Eventbrite, so you can sign up there. And we're also doing a virtual wine tasting next week with the PAC Road Trip Travel Group. And we are going to be getting our wine from Vintner's Cellar Winery of Yorktown. It is now Black owned, so we're excited about that. They recently acquired the winery, and now they've taken that over. So we will be doing a virtual wine tasting with their tasting kits that are $25. This will be the last weekend you're able to pick it up. So if you are interested, you can just sign up through Eventbrite, but you will have to order your tasting kit through Vintner's website, which is also listed on Eventbrite, and you'll order it and then you have to pick it up from the actual winery, okay? Feel free to connect with me if you have any questions. Like I said, feel free to reach out to me. You can connect with us at the Connect 757, and that is our social media handle on Instagram, Facebook. Our private Facebook group is Hampton Roads Black and Professional. So if you're not a part of that group, feel free to request and join that as well. And membership is open. We are a paid membership organization, so I would encourage you to become an official member and get connected with the Connect 757. And we are on time, 8:01, y'all. All right, thank you guys so much.
This was so good. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, appreciate that.
Thank you
so
so
much for
much,
having me. It
everyone.
was wonderful.
Thank
I
you.
loved it.
Let me go order my book now. Thank you.
They don't mail out the kits, the wine kits, they will mail them.
Not right now because they just recently did that transition. So they don't have it to be able to mail out right now. They're hoping to transition to that. But for right now, you have to go pick it up.
Oh, I live in Fredericksburg. I can't go there.
Oh yeah, you can't go.
I'll get my own wine.
Feel free
Okay.
to join in if you want to learn more about them as well. The owners, awesome story. So feel free to still sign up and join the conversation.
I think I will. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. This was so great.
All right. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.